Jackie's Groove. Come journey with us through the rhythm of the music business with your host, Jackie Bertoni.
Everybody, welcome to Jackie's Groove. This is Jackie Bertoni, brought to you by Intertalk Radio Network. You're into all things music. Hey guys, it's a hot day down here in Southern California, actually on the West Coast, period, and it's July 28th. Hey guys, I'm proud and I'm privileged to bring today to my studio a brother that I've known for years. Let's go back all the way to 2010 when he joined this iconic R&B group called Tower of Power out of the Bay Area, Oakland to be exact. And we'll talk more in depth about what his duties are, what his duties have been, and what his duties will be with this group called Tower of Power. So with that said, I want everybody to welcome with open arms and open ears the guitarist since 2010 and vocalist with Tower of Power. Please welcome everybody, Mr. Jerry Cortez. Jerry, welcome. Good afternoon, my brother.
Good afternoon, Jackie. Nice to hear your voice.
And likewise, finally, as I said when we were talking before we got on the line, I said that Jerry and I have always been cordial to one another after shows. We, get a chance to say, hey, how you doing? And then I get engulfed with Emilio or David Garibaldi, people I've known for years. And so I'm really, really proud, man. I'm happy that we're going to get a chance to chop it up here and talk about, what's going on in the life of Jerry Cortez. The song we started out with, guys, don't get it twisted, man. I mean, this man is a funkster beyond funkster. He's a jazzer also, but that is a new song off his amazing album From the Ground Up. So we're going to talk more about that. And Jerry, give us the genesis of that song that we heard coming in.
That song was called, what's it called? It's called Around the Globe. And
beautiful.
The title comes from a really silly situation when I was a little kid jamming in a neighbor's garage. Three brothers and my brother and I used to go and hang out in these guys' garage, and we just got new acoustic guitars, and my brother didn't even have a drum set yet. All he had was a drum pad. So I came up with this little riff, and everybody in the room seemed to really like it. And hey, let's make something of this, And then one of the brothers said, "Hey Jerry, what do you call this song?" And I looked around this garage, and I just saw a bunch of boxes, and one of them said Globe on it. And I just said,
perfect.
We'll call it Globe. So years, fast forward 40 years, and I'm in a lesson with one of my students, and I played this girl a song, and she knew because she asked me a few lessons earlier. It's like, what was the first song you wrote? I went, well, it wasn't really a song, but it was just a riff, and I called it Globe. So we had a laugh over that. So when she heard this song, she heard it and she goes, "Oh, you have to call that Around the Globe." So that's where the title comes from. And it's just something that I really like to do. I like to play around with like open tunings and acoustic guitar kind of things. I'm really into people like John Renbourn and Leo Kottke and people like that. So I always really appreciated that kind of guitar playing. So that's kind of where that song came from. So
yeah, man, and I appreciate your vibe because for those out there who haven't friended Jerry, if there's any friends available left on his list, it's Jerry Cortez and also the official Tower of Power website. You want to go ahead and like them and also see if Jerry's got anything opening, because during the holidays, even during different situations, Jerry always treats everybody online to an acoustic situation, like if it's for Christmas or whatever it may be, he kind of throws it in there. And then I was a little bit shocked just about Jerry's prowessness on acoustic, because I'm so used to seeing him with these blazing leads with Tower of Power. I just think that, anybody that came through that camp to play guitar, and of course, if you're going to be in Tower of Power, you've got to be the creme de la creme, for the lack of a better word. But I got to tell you, brother, to sit there and take that lead on What Is Hip, to sit there and to walk in the shoes of Bruce Conti, man, that alone is frightening. But you kill it, brother. And I will agree with Emilio. I'll agree with Emilio Castillo, the founder of Tower of Power. And guys, congratulations, going on 50 years. in this crazy thing we call the music business. And Mimi will say itself, and Jerry, I'm not blowing smoke up your ass, but Jerry, Mimi said it many a times that you are his favorite guitar player since day one, and that's saying a lot, man, especially for the people that run through that camp. And the listeners want to know. Now, you grew up in the Bay Area. Correct me if I'm wrong. Born and raised where?
I grew up in Santa Clara, California. I was born in Burlingame and lived in a little neighborhood in South San Francisco called Burry until I was like 5, and then I was actually 4, and then we moved to Santa Clara in December of 1959, something like that. Yeah, so 3 or 4 years old when we moved there.
What was playing through the Cortez household? What were you listening to? What were your parents listening to that you were forced to listen to and so on that actually inspired you? Did you like what you heard from mom and dad?
Well, you know what? Lucky me. I mean, I really feel fortunate that I really rarely ever felt like I was forced to listen to anything. My dad's a musician. He plays tenor saxophone. In fact, he was the one who first uttered the words Tower of Power. I remember we were sitting around the dinner table when I was like 12, 13 years old, and him going, "Hey, you guys, there's this new group out called Tower of Power. They're really hot." And we're like, "Well, what's so hot about them? Why they're so cool?" And he goes, "Well, they got a really, really fat sounding horn section, a really tight rhythm section. And not only that, but they sing really well. They have like really good vocals, like their lead and background vocals are really cool." And we're like, "Oh, wow, cool." And then I was like, soon after he mentioned that, he came home with East Bay Grease and said, "Put this on. You guys will dig this." So, yeah, so we're, the whole family's been fans, since the beginning. And I first time I saw him, I remember was at Kezar Stadium. And, no, not Kezar Stadium. I'm sorry. It was Spartan Stadium in San Jose. And it was a big rally, for Cesar Chavez was there, and him and his workers came up between bands. Like I remember Mala was there. I think Taj Mahal was there, and Tower of Power. And between sets, Cesar Chavez came up and was talking about farm workers' rights, and they were chanting "Don't eat the lettuce" at the time. I remember, but I remember seeing the original band. Well, I didn't see Rufus Miller, but I did see Rick Stevens, and that lineup from East Bay Grease, basically, and the Bump City album. So,
because at that time, forgive me for being an aficionado on Tower, you at the time you just mentioned you had Rick Stevens on lead vocals. You also had Skip Mesquite that was playing at that time on sax, right? And you had Mick Gillette at the time, and Willie James Fulton. Correct me if I'm wrong. Was on guitar. Then of course Rocco and Chester and so on. The thing, like you said, we talked about off that, to be in Tower of Power. I'm sorry?
I was saying Chester wasn't even in the band yet.
No.
72. That was before him, yeah.
Which is crazy because, you talked, and you didn't know this about myself, but, my introduction to Tower of Power was from my next-door neighbor, Mike Rogers, and he was blaring something, and it was the skunk, the goose, and the fly. And I just, something about that, because I'm Armenian Italian, but I grew up listening to Latin music. My mom and dad always were into salsa and cumbia and so on and so forth. But as soon as I got inflicted and infected by Tower of Power, that's all it took. And I will tell you right now, and I will stand on my soapbox, there is not a bigger fan in Tower of Power than Jackie Bertoni. I can tell you, Jerry, everything, every horn break, every arrangement. And then when I talked to Jerry before we came on, the first time I ever walked on stage with Tower of Power was December 17th, 1979 at the Golden Bear in Huntington Beach. And I told Jerry, and I'm going to tell the guys again too, you talking about just frightening. I mean, Mimi and I had a good 6-month relationship over the phone. We finally got a chance to meet. I had purchased 15 tickets out of my own pocket, not knowing about guest passes and so on and so forth. I didn't take it upon myself to think that I had availability. So my sister, my future brother-in-law, my brother-in-law now, and 14 other people were there to see Jackie Bertoni playing with this iconic band. Well, got a little shocked because Mimi walked up and we finally gave each other a hug, and I said, "Hey, man, I got my drums. Can I go pick them up?" And he said, "What do you mean?" I said, "I got my congas outside." And he goes, "No, man." He goes, "Tonight's not a good night." Now, maybe Mimi asked me to come and play. And so then apparently on those few weeks that passed by, CBS at that time wanted to see the band as an original. So Mimi said, go back and sit in the back, and we'll get back to you momentarily. So Doug Schoen, who was a road manager at the time, God rest his heart, finally walked back and said, okay, you're on. Mimi walked in and said, all right, brother, you're going to do 2 songs and 2 songs only. You're going to start out with Can't You See? And if you can't cut Can't You See, don't hang for squib cakes. So in like nano speed, Red Miller at the time was the stage manager. He had the congas up on stage right next to Greg Adams. And it started out with that classic, and then David comes in with his thing. Okay, so I nailed that. And so Mimi looked back over his shoulder. Mimi kind of gave me a wink, and we went into Squib Cakes. And then after Chester's bass pedal solo, I came in and I did like maybe an 18-bar conga hit. And at that time, that's when Mimi said, everybody, please welcome my buddy and to Tower Power tonight, sitting in on congas, Jackie Bertoni. And I got to tell you, right then and there, I knew that's what it was. I mean, to come on to be thrust. I was working with a group called Seawind prior to that, still very notable, but the chance to hang out and to work with Tower Power, to this day, the number one fan. And I want to go back and ask you, Jerry, I mean, you're growing up in that area. There wasn't a time that you weren't listening to Tower Power, but where were you? Who was it that made the intro to you that even there was an inkling of you taking that seat of guitarist? Share with the listeners out there, how did that come about, and what were you feeling at that time?
Well, I would say I even know the date. That's a big a music nerd I am. February 9th, 1964, the Beatles and Ed Sullivan. I mean, that was really a big turning point for me. But before that, I did hear my dad did play things like Tony Bennett and Errol Garner and Frank Sinatra and Louis Armstrong. So I heard, and Stan Getz, especially Stan Getz, my dad's hero, Stan Getz, and he's still one of my all-time favorite instrumentalists as well. I get a little misty even talking about him. he was so lyrical and so musical all the time. It was just like so inspiring all the time. And then also they had one Elvis record in particular that I remember playing a lot, and it was called Something for Everybody, I think was the name of that album, and it had some really good tracks on there. And I remember thinking how cool Elvis was, but really I think the whole music thing really, just really caught the bug when I saw the Beatles on Ed Sullivan, and then particularly George Harrison, because as much as I enjoyed all of them, watching all of them as entertaining as they all were individually, George Harrison, I thought I just was so cool to see. Here was the guy who stepped up and made a statement on guitar, and that's what was really cool to me. And I just remember thinking, I want to be that guy. I want to do that. I want to do what he does. So, and he's still one of my all-time favorite guitarists as well, George Harrison. And then you asked me earlier about. Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying it's amazing how many people I've interviewed that have all been touched by Ed Sullivan and the Beatles. I mean, it's amazing. You right now are probably the 28th person that's come on, to see that. I was never myself. I'm not going to lie. I was never a big Beatles fan. Never have been. I was always the other side of the group. I ended up working with for years the Beach Boys. And if you didn't have the Beach Boys, you didn't have the Beatles, and vice versa, and so on. Yeah. So go on and continue on with that. So as we started talking a little while ago.
Oh, no problem. I was just you asked me earlier, and I forgive you for not liking the Beatles. It's okay.
Please. Thank
there are
you,
a lot of people who just grew up with hearing other things, But I grew up hearing a lot of things too, thanks to like I said, my father and my brother, my older brother Robin was also they're both really inspirational to me. And I had younger sisters who didn't catch the bug as much as my brother and I did. But they're still big musos, and in fact, my sisters are the ones kind of who were more into soul music before I was. So that was kind of a good thing too. So, but we heard all kinds of great stuff. Like I said, Sinatra, and I remember my sister was a big fan of Cher and Sonny and Cher. I used to listen to these records, and I'm going, because my sister would come home from school and she would play these records by Sonny and Cher or Cher's early solo records. And then my dad would come home from work later on and put on his Frank Sinatra records. And I'm not kidding. I used to go, wait a minute. These sound like the same cats playing on these records. And it turns out many years later, I find out that it's the Wrecking Crew, because because I would hear those same attitudes, like on the B3 sound and just the kind of production qualities and stuff. And it's like, this sounds like this was done in the same place with the same cats. And sure enough, it was. So what a great
classic
story that is.
Hal Blaine and Carol Kay. Yeah, man. I mean, when you think about that situation of where they time-stamped their sound. I remember when I first started working with Brian Wilson, when he started doing his solo career, did an album called Imagination, and got a call at Western Audio, better known as Ocean Way, and they said, Jackie, Hal Blaine's on the phone for you, and I thought somebody was pulling my leg, and so it was that evening was just me, Brian Wilson, and Joe Thomas, and our engineer David Foster, not the David Foster, but an engineer, and I got on the phone with Hal, and Hal said, hey man, I had called him earlier through a friend, and I wanted to find out what I should know and not know about Brian in the studio. So, of course, fast forward, I'm already in the studio. He called late. He said, I'm sorry for the late reply, but the fact of the matter is just follow his lead. And I didn't understand what that meant because Brian took most of the day in his executive chair behind the board of an SSL Neve with his head down, and apparently I thought he was sleeping at the time, but apparently all he's doing is taking it in. And then Hal said something to me that will always be prolific to me. Hal said to me, he goes, congratulations on being the new Wrecking Crew, because Joe Thomas, the producer, was using a conglomeration of great guys, Brent Mason and Michael Rhodes and Eddie Bears and so on. And I said, Mr. Blaine, I'm going to tell you right now, I can never step into those shoes and even take that moniker. There will never be another Wrecking Crew. And there's a great movie that proves that also. So, Jerry, with that said, we're coming out. You see how fast this goes. We've got 40 seconds left in the first segment. We're going to come back in after the break on segment number 2. We haven't even touched on the situation where your inspirations came through on guitar and so on, and the multitude of people that you've inspired. So we're going to put some things together. If you got things that you want to talk about, let me know. And for the listeners out there also, you can always go to intertalkradio.com live feed and send us messages for Jerry. And Jerry, there's a lot of people listening in right now, mutual friends, and we're going to talk more about that also. So with that said, guys, don't go anywhere. Get yourself a beverage. You want to sit back because we've just started talking to this amazing guitarist, funk jazzer, Mr. Jerry Cortez from the legendary group R&B Specialists called Tower Power. So with that said, guys, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after a short break. Jackie Bertoni, Jackie's Groove, brought to you by Intertalk Radio Network. You're into all things music. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after a short break.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
You know what's all around you every waking moment of your life? Marketing. You're choking on it. I'm Scott Robertson, and when it comes to strategic PR, branding, and marketing, I've seen it all. And actually, I'm still seeing it because bad marketing never sleeps. Join me each week on May the Best Brand Win, right here on Intertalk Radio, and learn how to make the marketing for your brand unforgettable.
The Moyer Entertainment Group, in conjunction with Daddario, Radio Airplay, and Looploft, is keeping music in our local schools and presenting local talent to the world through the Temecula Valley Music Awards. Submissions for entry into the TVMA 2017 season are now open in all genres, including a youth category for artists under 18 for the October 7th Star-Studded Awards Show, where 100% of the proceeds go towards supporting local music education in the Temecula Valley. Details, tvmawards.org.
Make this your vinyl night. I'm John J.R. Robinson, and every week, music creation comes alive through stories, experiences, and sounds when vinyl records filled our hearts and minds. My friends and I share our tips and techniques used in creation of iconic tracks for recording artists such as Michael Jackson, Eric Clapton, Quincy Jones, and Steve Winwood, to name a few. Vinyl has emerged hot, and the soul of vinyl defines art and passion which burns deepest at night. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on intertalkradio.com.
Todd Zuckerman from the rock band Styx, and you're listening to my pal Jackie Bertoni on Jackie's Groove. Groove on, motherfuckers.
Welcome to Jackie's Groove. Come journey with us through the rhythm of the music business with your host, Jackie Bertoni.
Everybody, welcome back to segment number 2 of Jackie's Groove. This is Jackie Bertoni. Hey, guys, I want you to do me a favor and do yourselves a favor. When you can't listen to my show Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and other dates also live, and the plethora of other shows we have on Intertalk Radio, go to iTunes or Google Play and download our easy-to-use and easy-to-navigate application. 2 words, Intertalk being the first, radio being the second. You can take Jackie's Groove and the plethora of shows with you on the go when you can't listen to us live. So, with that said, guys, welcome back, and I want to welcome back my new buddy, my old friend but a new friend, Mr. Jerry Cortez, guitar vocalist with the Tower of Power. Jerry, welcome back, man. You know, we talked right before we got off the last segment and so on about, you know, your initiation, you know, into the field of jazz, if you will, through your father, Victor, and then your brother, who's a few years older, who was a drummer also. With that said, when you were at the household growing up, did you guys ever have the quintessential quote-unquote jam session with the family, or did you guys all go your separate ways musically?
No, we did, especially early on. My dad used to kind of sit us around a tape recorder, and we'd sing along with him, basically. You know, he'd kind of teach us, and then he'd try to teach us harmonies and parts and things like that. And that's kind of how it started. My brother eventually just, you know, kind of said, well, I'm really more interested in playing drums. I really don't want to sing. So my brother and I both got our instruments, shall we say, electric. I got my first electric guitar in 1966, and my brother got his first drum set in 1966. I had already gotten an acoustic guitar a couple years earlier. My dad saw how serious I was about playing guitar, and he ended up giving me his Gibson Les Paul Jr., which I still have to this day. And an amazing guitar, but that's kind of how it started. And then my dad playing sax, and he would eventually invite different keyboard players over to kind of fill in the gaps for us. And, you know, cats that knew songs and knew how to play was playing in bands with my dad currently at the time. So yeah, we did do some gigs. My dad used to play, a lot of guys, cats down at the Union kind of thing, and they did a lot of trust fund kind of jobs. And I ended up doing quite a number of those with my dad and my brother. And my dad would always surround himself around really good musicians. I mean, just like, what? You're a psychology teacher and you play like that? Or you're a doctor and you play piano like that? What? So, yeah, and still to this day, I mean, some of these cats I'm talking about, my dad still works with. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna ask that question because you and I were getting older and stuff, and I always ask this out of respect: is Dad still with us? And I made that to like Dad is still with us. Now, through that situation, and and Dad being the crux, Dad being the patriarch of the family, and so on, and watching his boys, progress and be successful, and again being working musicians. Did it blow Dad out of the water when you said, "Hey, Pop, guess what? I'm in Tower of Power"? But I want to, before you answer that question, I want to find out, because the listeners want to know also, and let me step back one more time. 2 things.
Sure.
A special hi from Tina Abasade. Tina said to say, I'm so glad Jerry is being productive during while he's on the mend. That's number 1. Number 2, got a little message here a little while ago from one of my dear friends, and I'm bragging. A great guitar player. I think you've heard of him. His name is Al Dimiola. And
wow.
When I did my interview with Al, he's listening right now, so say hi to Al. And
hi, Al.
He was so funny. He said to me, "What do I do at Jackie's Groove? Do I specialize in talking to guitarists that are on the mend?" Let me explain that. Al had foot surgery, and he was on the mend in his home in Florida at the time, between that and New Jersey, and that's when I conducted my interview with him. And so the fact is, let's kind of everybody put their say a quick little prayer for Mr. Cortez. You are recovering right now from surgery, and and you're going to be back on the job, I think, in the first part of August, if I'm correct. And for the
September.
listeners out there, September. For the listeners out there, what happened to Jerry? Was this something that was a required surgery, or did you just find out that you were old and you hurt yourself?
No, it's a silly accident, actually. I was just bending over to clean up after one of my dogs. I had a couple dogs I was taking for a walk, and I usually step down on both the leashes while I'm cleaning up after them, and one of them got away from me. And so I started walking towards him, and he walked a little faster and kept walking a little faster. And I seriously ran for like 3 steps, and I was going slightly downhill, so I couldn't stop myself. So I was trying to step on his leash and just went flying. So I just kind of tripped over my own 2 feet, so to speak, and I broke the 5th metatarsal on my left foot. That's the outside long bone, in your foot. So and it just broke it right in half. So I just recovering from surgery from just a couple weeks ago. So I'm sitting here in my recliner with my foot elevated and a Gene Simmons boot.
I love it. And taking over right now for you, subbing for you right now is Jeff Tamlier. Am I correct? Is he still on the?
Yeah.
Is he still filling in for right now?
Oh yeah.
Okay,
my first gig back will be September 2nd.
Make note of that, everybody, because it's so funny. I don't want to use the word funny. Let me just kind of step back, an oxymoron. It is a very tough time to be in Tower of Power at this stage in our life. We had a very unfortunate mishap with David Garibaldi and Mark VW. 8, 9, 10 months ago. David will soon be back if he's not already back on the throne. And want to say a special thank you to Russ McKinnon and thank you to Herman Matthews, my good buddy of mine, that were able and capable of filling that spot, and also in this case Jeff, who was one of the a guitar player years ago that took over, and then of course coming on and off between Mr. McKinley filling in on bass, and then and the other players in between, and of course Rocco, who has been coming in and out with that itself. I mean, look, none of us are young anymore, man. But the fact of the matter is, it's going to take a lot more than that to knock us to the ground. So, with that said, I want to go back and I want to ask. Someone just texted me and said, "Ask the question." So, the question asked to Jerry Cortez: where were you? What were you doing when you got the call that you were the new guitar player for Tower of Power?
Well, I was actually. My wife got the call before I did. I was actually flying home from Roger Smith's home, and Emilio called our house and picked up the phone and he said, "Tyler, this is Emilio Castillo. Is Jerry there?" And my wife Kathy said, "No, he's not. He's not home just yet." And my wife goes, "Did he do good?" Emilio said, "Oh yeah, he did great." So yeah, he goes, "I just want to tell him the good news." So that's when. So my wife found out before I did, and so when my plane landed, I got an email. Excuse me, not an email, but a voicemail rather, from Emilio saying, "Hey, this is Emilio Castillo. We just want to let you know that you sounded great today, and just calling to tell you we want to do the deal." That's what he said. So. Yeah, that's I was actually just landed in Portland is what it was. So.
And you just mentioned Roger Smith. I mean, Roger Smith, guys. Roger is the amazing keyboardist for Tower of Power. He's killing it, and also with his amazing wine called Bump City Wine. So you guys want to check that out. Also go bumpcitywine.com. And forgive me for knowing everything about the guys, because basically I've had everybody on the band on Jackie's Groove. We're still waiting for Tom Politzer to come around, first tenor sax. I don't know if Adolfo is going to be talking. Adolfo is probably one of the quietest guys I've ever met in my life, and and so hopefully get him on. Then of course Sal and I go all the way back to the Ponzo Sanchez days. Sal Carlio on trumpet. So with that said, I got to ask you a question, Jerry, and I say this personally because again I've known Emilio, your boss, since 1978. Going back that far with him, and he's been my mentor, 10 years my senior, all these years. And if it wasn't for Mimi gets embarrassed when I do multitude of interviews myself, and I say if it wasn't for Emilio, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. Mimi always says to me, "Jackie, if it wasn't for your talent, you wouldn't be doing what you're doing." But let me just tell you, truth be told, every time I'm around Emilio Castillo, the founder of Tower of Power, I am no longer 57 years old. I am 19 years old again. I revert back to that, and I look at him as a big brother. Mimi, truth be told, can be an intimidating individual. I mean, come on, the man has kept this band together for all these years and has had a revolving door of musicians, but he never skipped a beat. Do you find Mimi being, and we all know there's a Mimi meter, because you know there's times where Mimi is going to be talkative, and there's going to be times where Mimi is all a business. Do you find Mimi intimidating at times?
No, I don't. I just find him just to be a complex human being, like so many people that I've known in the music industry. So, everybody has their good days and their bad days, and times they want to be social, and times they want to be withdrawn or introverted or whatever. And I just try and go with the flow. And I don't. I know that there are people that find him intimidating, but I just, I love him. I love him to death. I think he's an incredible leader, and I love that he knows what he wants, out of a band, out of himself, and it's an honor to know him and everyone else in the band for that matter. So
yeah, this man runs a tight ship. A couple of years ago, shows how far back that goes. It was actually the second gig for Ray Green. And the first gig was at a place called the Canyon Club in Southern California. The second gig was at the Coach House in San Juan Capistrano. And I got a phone call from a friend of mine. Says, "Hey, you going to go see Tower of Power tonight?" I said, "No, I didn't know they were in town." And so then we're at the swap meet. I called Mimi. And Mimi says, "Yeah, man." He goes, "We're out right now. We're getting ready to do sound check in about an hour. Do you and Cappy want to come down?" So we went down. And we sat down. I got to tell you, it was the first time I met Ray Green ever. And it was the second gig. And you guys are at the Coach House. And the part I'm bringing out this to a thing called Soundcheck. That's one thing. But to watch Emilio take this ship called Tower of Power, it was amazing because it was like, okay, we'll just pick it up after the bridge on the fifth chord. I mean, he broke it down like you had to have your a schematic to understand where he was coming from. It's just that tight. Did you find that playing with Tower of Power? Or how much Tower Power did you have in your library already known, or did you learn as you went along?
Well, it's funny because I kind of I used to play a little bit of congas myself, not up to your speed or league or by any means, but my brother always had a set of congas at home, and I remember. The two albums, I guess, where Brent Byers was on, the Tower of Power and Back to Oakland albums. Right. I remember I used to come home from high school after and just like to blow off steam. I used to play along with those records, and so I kind of got inside their heads a little bit, if you will, just as far as the groove sense, And I felt like I could play along fairly well with those records, like just like in the groove. I couldn't play all the hot licks, but I could kind of keep the pace in the groove. And then eventually, I ended up taking some guitar lessons from Bruce Conti back then as well. So I can remember the first time just sitting down with Bruce Conti. He goes, "Well, let's just do a jam in key of E." I said, "Yeah, sure," because he wanted to hear me solo, So he kind of wanted to see where I was at. So he started playing. I'm not kidding, man. He just started this little funky little groove, man. I just started laughing. I couldn't even play. I said, "Geez. There's Tower of Power right there." And he was just,
absolutely,
just playing this super funky thing. So I composed myself, and we had a good old time, and it was really fun studying with him. So that was kind of another way to, I kind of felt like I kind of got a little closer to the Tower of Power feel and groove, and fast forward many years later when I met my wife in 1990, I was playing at a club in San Francisco called Lou's Pier 47, a great little place to play, actually. And I met her, and then after the show, she said, "Hey, your band sounds really good." It wasn't even my band. She goes, "Hey, you guys, the band you play with sounds really great." She goes, "If you could play with anybody, who would you want to play with?" And I don't remember saying this, but she said that I said Tower of Power, and she asked me why, and I said, "Because that's how I play." So I guess it's been more of a part of me than I ever thought was part of me, really, because it wasn't like I was sitting there listening to Tower of Power every day of the week, or if it wasn't like I was going to all their shows or anything like that. It was just kind of a feel thing, and something that was just a part of me, like as much as the Beatles were, or whatever kind of other inspirations. There's lots of them, but yeah, Tower of Power was definitely one of them. And I think at the time I had just started playing with a band that was playing a lot of soul music too, and we did a few Tower songs, and without horns even. We had a synthesizer player who had pretty believable horn sounds, and he was actually really good at it, and he enjoyed it. But now he kind of cringes knowing that there's actual Tower of Power people actually listening to his what he calls cheesy horn patches. Anyway, we were making do with what we did, and it was actually a really funky band. So I guess that's kind of where I was at the time when my wife asked me as well, because I was doing a lot of funk stuff. So, and I've always really dug James Brown too. Starting in 1965, right. my uncle was still living with my grandparents. My dad's youngest brother, and said, "Hey, check this out. Check out James Brown. Check out this song. Papa's Got a Brand New Bag." And I'm not kidding. I remember just wearing out that 45. I must have played it all day. And of course, Papa's Got a Brand New Bag, part 2. You flip it over. So, yeah, and I just dug it. I mean, when I heard the horns and I heard that guitar with the echo on it and that groove, man, I'm just like, holy cow, what is this?
Yeah, that's crazy.
This is amazing. So I really caught the soul bug pretty early on too. So I was like 9 years old. That was the same year I started playing guitar. So
and I want to pick that up because one of my favorite songs that TOP plays is called "Digging on James Brown," and just I always know that intro. We're going to talk about that song and what inspired that, obviously Maceo and such. So Jerry, as we're coming out of segment number 2, I believe it's flying by 25 seconds. But that said, guys, don't go anywhere, man. You don't want to go anywhere. There's just so much more of Tower, and there's so much more of Jerry. And the people, musicians that we've played with, and we've yet to play with each other yet. And I say that word yet, so hopefully it'll be someday soon. So with that said, guys, this is Jackie Bertoni, Jackie's Groove, brought to you by Intertalk Radio Network, with my in-studio guest, an amazing guitarist, and a great guy all the way around, Mr. Jerry Cortez. So guys, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after a short break. Stay tuned.
Hi, this is Tim Dolbear, host of Sound Experience here on Intertalk Radio. And Source Connect by Source Element is the essential tool that we use to link between my studio in Austin, Texas, and the WS radio station in San Diego. Now, with Source Connect, not only can we communicate in real time and with HD audio, but it's synced up and is of a high enough quality that I can use it for real-time ADR work, remote recording, and overdubbing, and it even allows me to remotely control a DAW. Source Connect by Source Element. Affordable, high-quality audio and video connection over the internet for all of your production needs.
You know what's all around you every waking moment of your life? Marketing. You're choking on it. I'm Scott Robertson, and when it comes to strategic PR, branding, and marketing, I've seen it all. And actually, I'm still seeing it because bad marketing never sleeps. Join me each week on May the Best Brand Win, right here on Intertalk Radio, and learn how to make the marketing for your brand unforgettable.
Make this your vinyl night. I'm John J.R. Robinson, and every week, music creation comes alive through stories, experiences, and sounds when vinyl records filled our hearts and minds. My friends and I share our tips and techniques used in creation of iconic tracks for recording artists such as Michael Jackson, Eric Clapton, Quincy Jones, and Steve Winwood, to name a few. Vinyl has emerged hot, and the soul of vinyl defines art and passion which burns deepest at night. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on intertalkradio.com.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
Hi, this is Michael McDonald, and you're listening to my good buddy Jackie Bertoni on Jackie's Groove.
Welcome to Jackie's Groove, Come journey with us through the rhythm of the music business with your host, Jackie Bertoni.
Okay, guys, that little skank right there you heard on that guitar is by my in-studio guest, Mr. Jerry Cortez. Jerry, sorry, but we can only play these little snippets, man, because we got to stay away from the YouTube police. They get the algorithms going,
sure,
and they end up blocking us out. So, guys, with that said, when we took a break, and again, this is Jackie Bertoni and Jackie's Groove with Mr. Jerry Cortez. When we took a break, we're talking about certain songs that Emilio, the founder of Tower Power, kind of plays homage to his heroes growing up, and we talked about digging on James Brown, especially when Mimi references and refers out to Maceo and Clyde and so on and so forth. Is that a song? I mean, that song, it seems like when the audience accepts that tune as your own itself, kind of gives you a cross section of that. But with that said, I want to ask you a question: is there a favorite song on your set list when you walk out and you look down, or if you're looking wherever they put the set list in front of you? Is there a song that really, really, really makes Jerry smile and you can't wait to get to it?
Well, man, that's pretty much all of them. But, I definitely do have some of my favorites. I mean, and these were kind of favorites before I even got in the band. And one of them is Can't You See? And I just really always dug that song, just the length of the song. The horn stabs, the way the horns are arranged, all the vocals, the background vocals, just the whole production of that tune was just always really was kind of a favorite of mine, especially from back to Oakland anyway. And and what's really a super big honor for me is at my audition, Emilio asked me to solo on the outro of that song. And the original doesn't have the original doesn't have a solo on it. And he said, "We're just going to vamp on the outro, and I want you to solo over it." And I said, "Okay." And that wasn't something that I thought I was going to be, going to be doing. He kind of gave me a list of things he wanted me to do. So so he wanted to get me solo on it, and so I did. And I played. I had 30, like a minute and a half or so over it, and we stopped, and he goes, "Man, that was great." I said, "Well, thanks." And he goes, "That's usually where the audition ends, right there." And I said, "What, guitar players?" And he goes, "No, anybody." So horn players included, And so when we got to our first rehearsal, I think it was the first rehearsal. Well, I had several rehearsals before I actually did a gig with him. He said, "We're going to put a guitar solo at the end of Can't You See now." So for me, it's like one of my favorite songs. And and then Emilio kind of passed the hat to me kind of thing, or however you want to put it. He just he wants me to solo on it now. It's a great honor to, there wasn't ever a guitar solo on that song. Now he's put one in there. So that's what I mean. It's just really a wonderful thing. Man. So that is one of my, and like I said before, even if I wasn't doing a solo on that song, it's still one of my favorites. And now to be asked to do a solo is even better yet, bigger smile on my face even. So, and I also really always loved the song, Only So Much Oil in the Ground. It's just like that whole feel, just the way that thing starts out with Chester going, it just has this big grinding chord into the song. And just the way that song really grooves. And I remember my brother and I playing in a top 40 band when that song came out. We were sharing a motel room up in Portland, Oregon, and we had like a boom box in our room, and we wore that record out, Urban Renewal. It was an amazing record.
It's so funny there, Joey. There was, I'm sorry, I'm jumping here. There's a club talking about top 40 bands. There was a club that Mimi forgot the name of it. A place was called the International Club in Pico Rivera, California. And that was my first intro. I had a band back in the mid-'70s the best band in L.A. called Nice and Easy, and we were the band that was picked up by all the big groups that came through town, Evelyn Champagne King, the Hughes Corporation, and a group called Tower of Power. And so when we got the gig, we were beside ourselves with joy, man, now that we were opening up for T.O.P. And so we're getting ready to go on stage, and Doug Schoen walks in, the road manager, God rest his soul. He says, I understand that you guys do 3 Tower of Power tunes as a medley in your show. And Mike Jimenez, the leader of the group, said, yes, we do. And he goes, well, not tonight. And I remember the look on his face, because all of a sudden that was our main, we only had, a half hour to open up for the group. And I was sat there and I said to Mike, Mike, you should know better. Why would we be playing a Tower Power, cover a Tower Power tune when we're playing with Tower Power, and that was the time where I sat down and really watched that band. And again, I am 100% agreement with you. What can't you see? Just that, just that hit, man, was always so good. And just the songs, I've tried hard to do my best. I tried to stand out from the rest. Seems like all Tower Power songs were all about, not all, but it was always about impressing, always about getting that woman. I mean, songs like my favorite, that how many children were conceived to You're Still a Young Man? How many children, I always use that joke, one of the greatest songs I love is Time Will Tell, and that one song that we were talking to Garibaldi, David and I, when I interviewed David, Willing to Learn, where David's kick pedal squeaked during the whole recording. And Warner Brothers, it didn't want to re-record it because they said nobody would understand or nobody would hear it. But that became part of the joke. And even a song called Doing All Right off the Tower Power We Came to Play album. And when Eddie McGee, again, forgive me for knowing all this shit, Jerry. I'm sorry, I'm a fan, brother. Number one, don't forget that. But when Eddie McGee said, doing all right, he stopped. And Mick Gillette, you hear, and they never took it out. And it's just, it's just so many cool little anecdotes itself. But I want the audience to know out right now, guys, I'm not going to give you guys a spoiler alert, but I'm going to give you a spoiler alert because I asked Mimi if it was okay. Mimi's writing a book all about Tower Power from A to Z. I will get that first copy. I will wait in line for it. There's also, they've completed, correct me if I'm wrong, 28 tracks on this new album. Now, there won't be 28 tracks on the album, at least I don't think there's going to be, but it's been pushed back because when Ray Green left Tower Power to go on to his new gig called Santana, they brought this young brother in, man, and I remember our dear friends, Jerry Lopez and Santa Fe and the Fat City Horns. Jerry called me up and said, hey, man, you've got to see this new singer that Tower's breaking in. And you broke it in at the not Gold Coast, but one of the hotels that
South
you guys
Point.
play there at the showroom. Yeah, South Point.
Yeah, South Point.
And that was his first audition per se. And I remember I said to Mimi, I said, how do you do? And he said, he's good, man. He's green, man. He's really green. I said, Ray? He goes, no, he's young. And so I remember Mimi said to me that you guys had a big festival, and he called Ray and said, hey, Ray, would you do us a favor? I don't think Marcus is ready for this gig yet. So Ray came back. It was melancholy for him to come back because that was his home, man. He loved it, even though it was only for 2 years. And then let's step back prior to that. My favorite vocalist, Mr. LB, Mr. Larry Braggs, 14 years fronting that band. Did you love Larry as much as I loved him, his musical and his talents?
Well, maybe not as much as you did, anyway. But I did. What I really liked about what I do really like Larry. He has a unique gift, and what I did like about him was he was such a freaking workhorse. I mean, he really was. He could just He could just barely get himself on the bus because he was sick or something, and he would. And he still brought it, man. He really did. He'd bring certain notes down. He wouldn't be singing as high, and he wouldn't be screaming or shouting as much or that sort of thing. But he still sang pretty well, man. He really did. I mean, like when he can barely talk, he sang. And so that much I really, really appreciated about him. And then Ray Green was the same thing, man. He was total workhorse. And that guy was just dripping every night, And same thing with him. He could just be sick as a dog. There's one where I know that he's really sick, but he doesn't really sound or look very sick at all. And it's one of our shows we did in Leverkusen, and that's actually pretty nice footage. There's really nice, like camera. You know, it's at the Rock Palace thing, the Rock Palace, however you pronounce it. Yeah, and we were all actually really sick. And I remember I was sick too. And I remember it was very strange. I remember I just got on stage and I was like, I don't feel sick anymore. And then when I got off stage, it was like, boom, it hit me again. It was very, very strange. So there is something about that when you know you have to get a job done and you're under the weather, things can be done. You know, you could rise above it, you know, and musicians do it all the time. You know, really do. And not just musicians. You know, people go to work in their everyday jobs, you know, not feeling at their best, you know, and still give it their all. So that's what I really appreciated about Ray Green as well. And Ray was just the prince of a human being, and you know, really talented guy. You know, his background and being able to play the trombone as well. And then fast forward to Marcus, man, he's like we were talking about earlier about how Ray says that he has a little bit of a lot of other singers that have been with the band, like Lenny and Eddie Jeffries. What's it? I can't think of his name. Michael Jeffries.
Herbert Tubbs.
That's one. Yeah, Herbert Tubbs. You know, so he has his own thing too, which is really great. And he's really a musical singer, man. He comes up with a lot of really musical things that. And I mean, more than any other singer since I've been in the band. I mean, he just like cracks us all up because of his musical prowess and some of his little antics he does on stage, things he says to the audience, and physical antics, like he'll do like cartwheels and flips and all kinds of like, what?
Yeah, I just love watching him. I follow him on on YouTube, and with a couple of your fans that have Tower Power pages. And I was kind of looking, it was like about a week and a half ago, I was looking to talk. I actually got off the phone with Marcus, and we're setting up a time for an interview. And he goes, I can't believe you want to interview me. I said, brother, anybody that walks through that, that I'm trying to get Rocco to do it. But, Rocco goes, Jackie, he goes, I'm not much of a conversationalist. And I understand that. And that's cool also, but it's just the fact of the matter is that we're getting old. I mean, I want to be able to talk to Rocco, man, while he's in that position to talk. I mean, he is the luminary of that band. I mean, there's there's the greatest bass players in history. Yeah, man, and I've learned from that. And then I'd also, too, I talk to Doc all the time, and Stephen, the funky Dr. Kupka. I would love to get the Doc on the show also, but that'll be in time. Once you guys, the dust settles and everything starts to move for this 50th anniversary, I don't know how I'm going to be able to handle myself. Of everybody I've interviewed, to this date on Jackie's Groove, I'm going to be scared shitless to interview my boy Emilio, and it's because I know interviewing David Garibaldi, there's a lot of things that David didn't want to talk about, and I would say it just to bust his balls, and on that, and then his response to me was, Jackie, we're not going there, but it was just so funny though from learning that situation. Now, and we also want to give a little bit of homage. Also, let's go back. We forgot one great singer from Tower Power, who I love, who's now fronting a group called the Average White Band, and his name is Brent Carter. I love Brent's voice, man.
Oh yeah,
he's got a certain vibe about himself. But Marcus Scott, one of the youngest cats. It's funny when you say youngest cats because everybody was young with Tower Power, started in '68, even before then. When they would call the Gotham City, whatever they used to call themselves, or the Motowns. But let me tell you, Marcus Scott, and I say this, yeah, man. I'm a heterosexual. That's a good looking brother, man. Let me just tell you. He brings us a different vibe to that band altogether. I mean, there's not one person in Tower Power that looks like themselves. Everybody has their own look altogether, and everybody brings it. You guys don't understand something. I'm 57 years old. There's brothers in that band that are 10 years my senior, but Tower Power is out on a minimal of 200-plus shows per year. Jerry, how does that not wear you, excuse my French, the fuck out? How does that not just? I mean, that's a log to go on, man. I mean, but I guess it's something normal for you guys itself. But and I want to talk more about different venues. But I know that you guys love going to Japan when you guys do yourselves at the bottom line and so on and so forth. Is there a certain country that you look forward to go to? Germany, Japan, and the like. Where's your favorite place to go in these last 2 minutes of this first hour of the interview?
Sure. Well, Japan is definitely one of them because they're so sweet and kind to us all the time, and they just make us feel like kings there. They really do. And Emilio told me about that before because I'd never been to Japan before, and was one of the first things he asked me. He goes, "Hey, you bringing Kathy, my wife? He goes, you bringing Kathy to Japan?" I said, "Well, I was thinking about it." He goes, "Oh no, you got to bring her. You got to bring her." He goes, "You won't believe it. You won't believe how nice they are to us." So I took his word for it, and I brought Kathy the first time we went over there. And she's been over there a couple of times with me. And the other place I really like a lot, just me personally, I really like the Dutch people a lot. I really like the Netherlands. Right. I like how forgiving they are to us for us not knowing how to speak Dutch. And they most of them speak English really, really well over there as well. So, and I just really, really think they're very sweet people. Germany as well. Denmark, also another really wonderful place I like to go to. For me, France isn't as big a deal to me as it is to a lot of people. I didn't find it as charming, and I think that they've seemed like they're a little less forgiving, or maybe a lot less forgiving about us not knowing how to speak French. Exactly. But it definitely does have its moments. There are parts of France that are just out of this world, like amazing. But it wasn't as much as all I thought it would be, as much as other countries that kind of blew my mind. You know, I wasn't expecting as much, especially from like Holland.
Right.
And just every city we go to, I'm more impressed by the people in the country and you know, just kind of where they stand politically and everything as well. So it's like a really forward-thinking country. So really,
Jerry,
really
let me jump in here real quick. In these
Sure.
last 30 seconds, I want to bring it up on segment number 4, the second hour of our 2-hour interview. I want to talk about the intimidation that comes with being a musician or former musician with Tower of Power. I'll expound on that more, meaning the fact is kind of like that, being the good-looking girl in high school. Nobody ever asks you out because they figure you already have a date. And I'll go in deeper in that itself and tell you what I faced by being associated with TOP. So with that said, guys, don't go anywhere. We're out of the first hour of a 2-hour interview with my in-studio guest, a very, very talkative and a very, very educated man, my dear friend, Mr. Jerry Cortez. Guys, don't go anywhere. Jackie Bertoni, Jackie's Groove on the Talk Radio Network. You're into all things music. Segment number 4, around the corner. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after a short message.
This is Jackie Bertoni from Jackie's Groove. Come join me weekly on my journey through the music business as I take you behind the velvet rope, interviewing industry notables such as Al Di Meola, Michael McDonald, and Al Jarreau, to name but a few. Listen to their stories on being in the studios recording #1 hits and onto the stages throughout the globe. Allow me to be your music historian. You can hear me live every Monday at 2 p.m. and every Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time or 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com. Ready to get your groove on?
Hi, this is Tim Dolbear from Eclectica Studios. I'm a full-time mixing and recording engineer. I work with Grammy winners, labels, and indie artists, using state-of-the-art digital mixing and restoration tools and the very best in analog gear. Really, though, it's my ability to bring tracks to life and fulfill your vision for your music. This has made me sought after by producers and artists worldwide. So spend your time working on music and not chasing a mix down a rabbit hole. Go to timdolbear.com and check out our free one-song mix offer.
You know what's all around you every waking moment of your life? Marketing. You're choking on it. I'm Scott Robertson, and when it comes to strategic PR, branding, and marketing, I've seen it all. And actually, I'm still seeing it because bad marketing never sleeps. Join me each week on May the Best Brand Win, right here on Intertalk Radio, and learn how to make the marketing for your brand unforgettable.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
Hi, this is Al Di Meola, and you're listening to Jackie's Groove with Jackie Bertoni.
Groove. Come journey with us through the rhythm of the music business with your host, Jackie Bertoni.
Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Those strings are brought to you by my in-studio guest, Mr. Jerry Cortez, guitar and vocals for the legendary and iconic R&B group called Tower of Power. Hey, guys, welcome back. Segment number 4, second hour of a 2-hour interview. It's blowing by, like I said, to Jerry in nano speed, and we still got so much more to talk about. And, I want to ask you a question, my brother. I said this on the break, and coming in, I can't let it go by. But I can only speak for myself, and there's been a cross-section of people that I've spoken to that have come through the Tower of Power camp. When I had my time with them, I found it that people, musical guests, groups I should say, were intimidated to ask me to play with them, sit in with them, or just whatever it may be, because I am associated with TOP, what is called the Quintessential Musicians Band. Has Jerry Cortez found the same situation where people are not only intimidated by your talents, but the fact that you're coming from Tower of Power? Have you experienced that at all? If you have, share with us.
Oh, I'm not sure how to answer that. I don't know. I don't find myself an intimidating person, or my musical skills. I don't find them to be intimidated in any way. So I'm not sure how to answer that.
Well, this is the fact that they're saying, we like to call Jerry. Jerry's got his chops are ridiculous, but God, I don't know if our music's up to Tower Power snuff. That's what I'm getting at. Or when you're around town, do you find yourself, when you're at home, are you at home? Or when there's situations around town, are you known to go in and sit in with certain groups, friends of yours? Do you like doing that, or are you a homebody?
I'm more of a homebody, and I'm kind of new. I moved from the Bay Area in 2007 to Salt Lake City, and since.
Well, you are. I cut out right there. So you're in Utah as we speak? Did we lose Jerry? Said. Let's see. Can you hear? Can you hear Jerry?
Okay,
I'm
here. Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, there. Good.
My hand. Sorry about that. My hand. It was my fault. User error.
No worries.
But,
no worries.
I moved.
You're in Utah now.
Area. Yeah, and so I just haven't really put myself out there. But the only thing I've done is I've worked with a gentleman who has a music school here, and a great one. It's a celebrated, award-winning kind of a music school. His name's Caleb Chapman, and I've done like clinics for him, and I've done a couple of his what he calls jazz festivals, and he has like about 17 different bands, and one of his flagship band is like a big band, a jazz big band called the Crescent Super Band, and they're like all high school kids, and they're like kind of the best of the best. And so, and not only will I play with them, but I'll play with some of his younger bands that are up and coming as well. And so that's been a lot of fun to do that. But I really I haven't gone out to like say Park City or Salt Lake and taken my guitar and go, hey, can I sit in, or anything like that. I just really haven't put myself out there because when I first moved here, I was actually teaching. I was basically teaching private guitar lessons in my studio. I was teaching classes, and then plus I was teaching guitar ensemble at a charter high school. So, and then it was late 2009. I got asked to join Tower Power. Well, I got asked to audition anyway. So,
and that's a perfect way to play it, because I want to ask you a question, my friend, because everybody has their aha moment, if you will. So you go through the standard audition situation. Mimi calls you and says, we're ready to talk a deal, and you do it. So you go through the whole you've got the catalog you're now part of your DNA with TOP, even though you've covered some TOP tunes of the tune, but now you're playing with the genesis of the music. So with that said, do you remember, or put your thinking cap on for a second, where you were, what country, what city, and tell the listeners out there, let us walk in your shoes on stage the first time you walked on stage with Tower Power. Share with us. Where was that?
It was at a casino called Chumash down in San Ysidro. I think that's where it is. That was my first gig, and I remember it was like in this big kind of not really a showroom. It was like a big bingo hall is what it was, and then they cleared it out, you know, and they set it up for like a concert environment, and it was actually I remember it was a fun show to play because it was a decent sounding room, and it was just like a big thrill, you know, and you know. And that was when I was comfortable. The other times I was like, oh yeah, which one is this one again? You know, I mean, I actually got into the band knowing quite a number of their tunes even before I joined the band, because when I was asked to audition, I was only asked to learn 5 songs, and I had like a month to do it. And one of them was "What Is Hip," which was a song I was already familiar with. I still practiced it, you know. And then meanwhile, I just kind of wanted to see, you know, what kind of, you know, I just started learning a bunch of songs. In fact, when I was at my audition, they said, you know, after I finished the 5 songs, they said, anything else you want to play? And I remember naming off several songs, and they looked at me and they go, well, we don't know that one. And then after the 3rd or 4th time, they're like, how many songs did you learn anyway? I said, well, probably about 30. So I just wanted to get inside their heads and see what I was up against, you know, and I kind of remember, because I had heard them like 6 months earlier, and I kind of remembered, and my wife kind of helped me out too. It's like, hey, did they do this one? They do that one? Oh yeah, they definitely did this one. So I tried to remember kind of the last set list I remember hearing, because they came to town, Salt Lake, and I went and saw them, and yeah, that was actually a lot of fun seeing them there too. But yeah, it was just a big thrill. Like I said, it's just a major honor to play with the guys, you know.
You know, and with all the notables out there in the industry that are the who's who of players who actually, you know, live for Tower Power. You know, there's a lot of amazing players out there, the people that we hear on the radio on the daily basis, and that's got to be a cool feeling itself. But let me ask you this question. Since the time you joined in Tower in January of 2010, and think about this for a second, over the past 7 years that you've played all over the world with Tower, who has been a special guest artist that stepped on stage? Because it's very rare that Mimi invites anybody on stage to play with that band. Out of all the big names, out of the huge names, who were you knocked out by? Who joined you on stage with a big name?
Well, believe it or not, man, whenever we play New York City, we play B.B. King's, and whenever he invites Lenny Pickett up, man, it's just a thrill just to hear him play, and just to see people's faces, you know, when they hear him play, they just like freak out, you know. And I am too. I'm like grinning from ear to ear, you know. I mean, it's just unbelievable what he does on sax. So, and he's just so low key, man, about his whole thing, you know.
Totally.
So I really enjoy. He's been one of the greatest kicks, you know, and you know, I got to say, it was when I got in the band, Mick Gillette was still in the band, and I knew Mick. In fact, yeah, absolutely. But I knew Mick before I was in Tower Power. I played on Mick's record Ear Candy, and Mick, I find out years later when I started coming around the band. Doc said to me, he goes, Mick Gillette's been singing your praises for years now. I've heard about you a long time ago. I went, oh, really? Is that so?
I love it.
So, and I guess at one time, Mick called Emilio and said, hey, you guys are looking for a new guitar player. I think you guys should get this guy that just played on my CD, Jerry Cortez. And I think Mimi just, at the time, said, well, we don't know him. So, but they did know Jeff, and I think it was right about the time that Jeff Tambalier got in the band. So, and I think Jeff was really in position to be in the band at the time too, because he started that whole Strokewind thing with all those different singers. It kind of reunited some of the nucleus of Tower Power, and I think that was right about the time that David decided to come back and play with the band as well. So it was good timing for Jeff.
Going back to you talking about things pretty much staying true to the original recordings in Tower, and there's been some changes. Like there's a nice that horn stab on "Can't You See" towards the end of the show, end of the song, I should say. But the thing that kind of threw me is on I think it's past the bridge on "What Is Hip," where it comes down and it goes dum dum bang gong gong gong. You know the part I'm talking about?
I think so. Yeah.
Where the horns come bang, dum dum bang gong gong bang bang, and then it goes back into that keyboard thing, with Roger. And there's just something that's always there. I always remember those hits. But I'm going to say something, and it's nothing disparaging to the man itself, because Mr. Carlos Santana has made a living, as Al Di Meola said, by playing the same 4 chords, and you can't take it away from that. But I got to tell you something that kind of blew me out of the water. And there's a reason, people. The reason why Carlos Santana is not on everybody's album, it's not because they can't afford him. It's because he's made a fortune playing what Carlos Santana plays. But I got to tell you, as a consummate and a deep, deep fan of Tower of Power, if you guys go to YouTube and you type in Tower of Power, Montreux Jazz, and put Carlos Santana, Chester Thompson, they guessed it on What Is Hip. Now, I'm going to be very honest with you, brother, because all about Jackie's Groove is about keeping it real. But here's this monster guitar player called Carlos Santana. I never heard somebody screw up a song more than that man did. I just listened to it before you came on the air. And again, I don't expect you to agree or disagree, whatever, but just the look on the players' faces in the band when he tried to cover the Bruce Conti situation. I mean, you can't play a Tower Power tune and throw your own. You can't sing a Beach Boys song without having the Beach Boys sing in the background. It was just very, very difficult to watch that situation. And also, on the positive tip, my dear friend, Mr. Dennis Chambers, had told me, Jackie, it was the hardest gig I've ever played in my life. I said, who? And he goes, Tower of Power. And I go, you? And he goes, Jackie, the hardest gig I've ever played with in my life was Tower of Power. And that right there is a compliment. And so I want to ask you this question, my friend. I'm going to step forward. I don't know if you're allowed to say anything at all. But on the new music, once Mimi and the band decides what they're going to cue it down to, how many songs on the album, is there a favorite song that you've heard so far on the album that just knocks you out? And are you playing any of the new music on the? Are you playing any new tunes on the tour as we speak? Or are you guys kind of holding those off until it's ready to come out?
Yeah, we're holding off just because it's the YouTube generation now, and this, we just want to kind of keep it that way for now, and until the record comes out. And once the record's out and the songs are copywritten properly and publishing and all that kind of stuff is taken care of, then we'll start playing it live, I'm sure. But yeah, there's quite a few songs, and I would say there's a number of songs that are kind of like are essentially like a kind of a departure for Tower Power.
Really?
And just kind of production wise, and maybe even slightly stylistic wise. We had some Mimi's written with several different outside writers. I wrote a song with Emilio. The first song we recorded actually was a song that Emilio and myself wrote. And Doc has written some wonderful songs, some great ballads that are in there. Just some really good stuff. And Rocco has co-written a couple of songs with I always forget his name, but the keyboard player from Spyro Gyra. He's written a couple, and in fact, those are a couple of my favorite songs right there. Are Rocco's tunes that he's co-written with the keyboard player I was telling you about. So yeah, it's going to be really fun. And for me, as a guitar player, I really had a good time because Joe Vanelli, the co-producer, loves guitar and likes to do different things with different guitars. So there's a number of tracks that, believe it or not, have acoustic guitar on them. They're not a featured thing whatsoever. It's more of a percussive thing, and it started out with a song that Emilio wrote with another gentleman from Las Vegas, and where Joe was saying in the studio, we had already done the basics, and Emilio said, he goes, this song needs something to kind of propel it. And I remember it almost seemed like simultaneously Joe Vanelli and myself said acoustic guitar. And so that was the first song that we actually used acoustic guitar just as a backing, kind of like a harmonic percussive instrument, if you will. And Joe had this really interesting guitar that was kind of like a Nashville tuning, and that it had 6 strings on it, but the 2 lowest strings were still tuned the way they were, but he used smaller strings, so they were actually tuned like 2 octaves higher. So what you didn't get was this boominess that fills up a track too much. Right. And so it had this really glassy, shimmering kind of sound. So, and it used as many open strings as I could, and it sounds really lovely. And if you're not really listening for it, you don't even really hear it. It's just one of those things. It's like a texture thing, So
and Joe Vanelli, really everybody, fun. And Joe Vanelli, his brother being Gino Vanelli. So there's definitely the roots go deep there by all means. And I want to get back into that too. I want to get back into that too with regarding tunes on the new album and so on, and kind of trying to see if I can extract anything out of you with regards to how many songs do you think they're going to make it on the new album? Is there a working title and so on? But when we do that, when we come back, believe it or not, coming out of the 4th segment into number 5, we still got to talk about your own CD release, and actually the last segment, segment 6, is going to be all about Jerry Cortez, how to stalk him, how to put some money in his pocket, how to go out and get this beautiful new CD. And we're going to talk about that. And when we come back on the next segment, a lot of listeners want to know, the guitar players out there, their fans, they want to know what guitars that you employed on this new album. And when we get back on segment number 5, let's talk more to the gearheads out there, and let's talk about what it was, how you recorded it, and where you recorded it. And I know a lot of great artists coming out. Michael McDonald's got a new album coming out called Open Wide, and that's on September the 15th. Styx has a new album out right now called The Mission. Both of those bands recorded completely analog, no digital. So I want to find out more about, if you can share with us what the process was on this new recording. So with that said, guys, don't go anywhere. This is Jackie Bertoni, Jackie's Groove, brought to you by Intertalk Radio Network. You're you're into all things music, blah, blah, blah. So with that said, guys, don't go anywhere. We're coming out at 4 into 5 with my in-studio guest, Mr. Jerry Cortez. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
You know what's all around you every waking moment of your life? Marketing. You're choking on it. I'm Scott Robertson, and when it comes to strategic PR, branding, and marketing, I've seen it all. And actually, I'm still seeing it because bad marketing never sleeps. Join me each week on May the Best Brand Win, right here on Intertalk Radio, and learn how to make the marketing for your brand unforgettable.
The Moyer Entertainment Group, in conjunction with Daddario, Radio Airplay, and Looploft, is keeping music in our local schools and presenting local talent to the world through the Temecula Valley Music Awards. Submissions for entry into the TVMA 2017 season are now open in all genres, including a youth category for artists under 18 for the October 7th Star-Studded Awards Show, where 100% of the proceeds go towards supporting local music education in the Temecula Valley. Details, tvmawards.org.
Make this your vinyl night. I'm John J.R. Robinson, and every week, music creation comes alive through stories, experiences, and sounds when vinyl records filled our hearts and minds. My friends and I share our tips and techniques used in creation of iconic tracks for recording artists such as Michael Jackson, Eric Clapton, Quincy Jones, and Steve Winwood, to name a few. Vinyl has emerged hot, and the soul of vinyl defines art and passion which burns deepest at night. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on intertalkradio.com.
Todd Zuckerman from the rock band Styx, and you're listening to my pal Jackie Bertoni on Jackie's Groove. Groove on, motherfuckers.
to Jackie's Groove. Come journey with us through the rhythm of the music business with your host, Jackie Bertoni.
Love that tune, guys. Hey, welcome back to segment number 5. It's blowing by, man. With my in-studio guest, Mr. Jerry Cortez. Jerry, let me do a couple minutes of business here, if I may. I want to thank you, all my sponsors out there that keep this ship afloat and keep our cash register ringing. And we want to say, first and foremost, thank you to Pitbull Audio and all the gang there and Calvin Lee. And we appreciate all your support and your sponsorship with us. You can reach them at pitbullaudio.com, where they just want you to play it loud. Somebody Jerry Cortez and myself is very familiar with, a company called SIR, Studio Instrument Rentals, SIR-USA.com, for all of your backline needs and all your studio rehearsal needs. And then let's talk about myself. My drumstick company of choice for 23 years, Vater Percussion, VATER.com. Thank you, boys. And also my cymbal company, Sabian Cymbals, SABIAN.com, for sponsoring Jackie for 24 years. And also to Drum Workshop, DW Drums, and all the gang there. And we appreciate your support. You can reach them at dwdrums.com. And also persons and people I'm most biased to, my percussion corporation that's been behind me for 28 years, and that group is called LP Music Group. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Terry. Thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Derek. And thank you, John. And thank you, Don, for believing in my career all these years. So with that said, business is done. Let's get back to the task at hand. Jerry Cortez, I had a bunch of listeners want to know, what guitars did you employ on Tower Power's new venture? ? Go ahead and give me an answer.
Okay. Well, as far as electrics go, I used a couple different 335s, a couple different Strats, a couple different Telecasters. We recorded at a couple different studios. I remember Jeff Temler had a bunch of his guitars at one of the studios. I remember using one of his guitars, and I'm not sure which one it was yet. But anyway, and then acoustic guitars. I used mostly some Yamaha acoustic guitars that Joe Vanelli had at his studio, and we used an electric sitar that Dave Amato from REO Speedwagon let us borrow, and that came off really cool. The electric sitar was really cool, and it's like kind of an old school soul ballad with like electric sitar fills, and Ray Green's singing really beautifully on that. So yeah, that's pretty much it, and mostly use the same amp that I use on stage for the most part. Just a twin reverb reissue. It's actually one that belongs to Tower of Power, and I bought a backup one that doesn't sound as good as the one that Tower owns. But anyway, that's pretty much it. Sorted pedals here and there. And Joe Vanelli also had a studio full of pedals, and he was always, hey, try this one, hey, try that one. So we did all kinds of fun stuff.
Nylon or steel strings on the acoustic? Your choice?
Oh, are you talking about my album, or are you talking about Tower of Power's album?
No, your album right now. This is what we heard on Camila. Oh. What was playing on that?
Oh, yeah. That's a nylon string. And, kind of the same thing on my CD, a couple different 335s, a couple different tallies and that sort of thing. So it's kind of the same thing, but that's for Tower stuff. Sorry, I misunderstood you. But on Camila,
no, it's okay.
I'm using a nylon string guitar, and that was recorded in Nashville. A drummer named Zorro is playing drums on that, and a bass player named Danny O'Lanerty.
That's my boy.
And a great bass player, and a beautiful piano player named Nick Manson is playing piano on that. And and so that song's written.
I had Zorro on the show about a couple months ago, and we had a great time with that. And Jerry, let me jump in here real quick. On from the ground up, your new current release itself. Now, I understand that you're in the midst of doing a new album right now, and of all places you're recording this is in Nashville. Where are you? Who are you employing? Nashville musicians that you want to kind of give a shout out to, or Are you bringing your music over to them? Talk about the process of the new album.
Well, I was, I broke my foot July 4th, and I'm not going to be back in the band until September 2nd. That's when doctors say I'm allowed to go back, pretty much. And so I was supposed to go to Nashville. Believe it or not, this is what was going to happen. We were going to play in Nashville, Tower Power, and then we were going to fly back to Seattle to do a show there. And we had I think 3 days off. And those 3 days off, I was supposed to fly back to Nashville. That was going to be the plan, and start work on my CD, then join up with Tower Power again. I can't remember where. I think it was back in California or something. So I was going to be doing this crisscrossing thing. So, since I broke my foot, the producer said, Jerry, we're going to be in the studio working on other projects as we were going to be anyway. We could start work on your CD, because I've already demoed up about 7 or 8 songs with just me, singing with a click track and acoustic guitar, and I've written out charts. So the band is the same. A lot of the same musicians that played on my first CD are going to be in the studio working on my next CD in my absence, actually. So, and I'm going to talk. There's a musical director there, Kevin Medill. He's a wonderful piano player and trombonist, and I've already sent him CDs, and he's going to get MP3s and all that stuff with the demos. And so the musicians will listen to it in the studio. Here's how this will happen. So the day they go to record a particular song of mine, they'll listen to the demo of me singing and playing it. They'll look at a chord chart, and they'll make notes. They'll listen to the producer, Donnie Merrow, who produced the last one, and the musical director, Kevin Medill, and they'll take notes that I have given them on what I want out of the bass player or the drummer and this kind of groove and that sort of thing. So they're basically just going to be reading chord charts for the most part. I didn't write out a specific drum part. I didn't write out a specific bass part or piano part. I didn't write all that stuff out. I just wanted to give them a basic roadmap and then them put their excellence on it. That's kind of how that works. That's the best way to do it, I think. So I think, and if not, there's all kinds of wonderful things we can do in the studio to, take it in a different direction if we want to. So what's beautiful about that is there's.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I was going to say what's beautiful about that is that there's one tune in particular that I can hear either going in almost like in a bluegrass kind of way, or even like in a rock kind of way. And I said, I'll leave it up to you guys. Who's ever available in the studio. If there's a fiddle player, an upright bass player, a dobro player, and they're in the house at the time, do that song and we'll do it bluegrass. And if they're not let's do it with I heard it as like electric Wurlitzer piano on it, electric bass and guitar. I'll even have other guitar players play on this one this time around too, which I think will be really fun.
And I wanted to throw back and forth since we're both in studio Tower-wise, and also Jerry. Jerry, is there a working title on your new album?
No, not just yet. And once this gets done, I talked about how the musicians are going to be there in my absence working on my CD. I'm going to go in and finish doing overdubs, probably at the producer's studio in Seattle, and I'll finish up my parts. I'll improve vocals. I'll bring some background vocalists in. Probably even do some strings. I want to have some strings done on some of the songs, horns, that kind of stuff. So this is just going to be the basic rhythm section kind of stuff in Nashville in late August. So, but I don't have a working title just yet. No, I haven't even thought of that
timeline.
But
when can we expect this?
Well, I'm hoping next year. I'm hoping. I'm hoping sometime around this time of year, like a year from now. That's the plan anyway. Shooting for that goal.
It's crazy, when you talk about how things are. I mean, I am a culprit. I am a Pro Tools guy, if you will. My wife calls it Bro Tools, and the labels love it because they're not going through the expense. They send everything here to my home studio, and they send it mono. I send it back mono. Then they do their magic. But I want to ask you the question. I mentioned an aforementioned Michael McDonald's new album, Wide Open, coming out on September 15th, and Styx. Their first album in 14 years called The Mission. They recorded their track Styx in Nashville at a beautiful venue called Blackbird, and and they did it all acoustically. And same with no digital at all. Same with Michael, no digital at all. With your new album, Jerry Cortez's new album, digital or non-digital? Would you go on that route?
Oh, it's definitely it's a digital. It's a Pro Tools thing as well. So
okay.
Yeah, it's not an analog tape or anything. Yeah, and it works fine. There's I think now with the digital audio analog converters and things like that now, I think so many great plugins. I think things are sounding a lot warmer than they used to. When the
How about Towers?
Was,
how about Towers album? Did Mimi go back to analog? It is really.
No, it's yes, it is. Yeah, it sounds pretty darn warm though. It sounds pretty natural and warm like it should. It does to me.
I know you're in complete control of your music, but let me go throw it back to Tower stuff right now. You're in the studio, and you've explained to us already that you've used guitars from either Joe Vanelli's place or Jeff's guitars and so on. My question I need to ask you, and I think the listeners want to know also, is it your ultimate choice of the guitar per song that you're playing, or does Mimi have his thumb down on you by saying, hey, I really hear this guitar on it, or does he leave it up to your prowessness to choose the guitar per song? Would you share with us on that?
He leaves it up to me pretty much. Yeah, I think that I think that I have picked up a guitar, and I a lot of times I'll kind of like, nah. I was thinking that this was going to be a Les Paul, but it really does need a Tele on this part, But for the most part, he lets, and same live, he doesn't say, hey, could you play the Tele on this? Could you play the Strat on that? I remember when I first got in the band, I was playing mostly Paul Reed Smith guitars. And in fact, when I first heard I was going to audition for the band, I took my wife to a guitar center here in Salt Lake, and I pointed to this guitar on the wall, and I said, "See that guitar right there?" I said, "I think that guitar actually will be like the best guitar for Tower of Power because it's kind of like it has something electronically on it that'll make it sound like a Les Paul or a Telecaster." When I think Tower of Power, I think Bruce Conti and Willie Fulton, those two guitar players. And I really think that guitar can do really well at mimicking both those guitars. I really did think that it did, at the time. But I had some issues with it, with the bridge and just technical things wrong with the guitar for me personally. But it was a great sounding guitar, and it played great. And I know Emilio always liked the sound of it. And but I do remember Doc and Rocco thinking, hey, did you ever think about playing a Telecaster or a Strat? Maybe especially on the James Brown stuff, probably coming more from Doc. And I went, yeah. And I told Doc, I said, well, check out this guitar. And I just happened to have it in my hand. I said, see this little knob right here? When I push this up, that means it's going to sound like a Telecaster. When I didn't go into the details, I push it back down. That gives me a Les Paul sound. He goes, well, I like that. That's really cool.
That's so cool.
And then slowly but surely, I started bringing Strats and Telecasters, Fender guitars into the mix, and Doc and Rocco were really happy about that, to hear that and hear that sound in the band. And then after a while, I think after Doc heard a lot of the stuff I recorded on the record, he goes, you know what, Jerry? I don't think it matters what guitar you play. It all sounds good to me. So you just go ahead and play whatever you want. I thought it was kind of cute. Put that to me.
Well, and let me ask you this question, Jerry. When you're sitting in the studio behind the board, I'm assuming that's where you're sitting and you're recording. Correct me if I'm wrong. Just trying to draw a picture for the audience. But when you're sitting there itself doing it, are you? I don't want to use the word unprofessional term, but are you ad-libbing your parts, or are you playing strictly to charted music?
Well, we're following. We're typically like some chord chart, and sometimes some of the chord charts can just be almost like chicken scratch. You can almost barely decipher somebody's handwriting, or sometimes it's like a really nicely written chart. But for the most part, it was chord charts. There wasn't a lot of like, hey, play these specific notes right here for me. There was a couple things where I had like ensemble cues to play along with other instruments, and so some things were written out, and I just read them as they went down. And we had time to practice all this stuff, so it wasn't like we were just coming in cold and sight reading stuff, So we had chances to kind of work it out and kind of work on the arrangement. And I'm talking about when we were first putting stuff down, just doing basics and stuff. So it was just a rhythm section and Emilio would sing like a rough vocal, and if we ever long sections that kind of vamped, he would tell us, he would kind of help us count bars and go bridge, and we'd go to the bridge, and he would, he'd sing the bridge and that sort of thing. So he kind of kept us in check, because it was easier for him to, kind of be reading bars, than us to we just kind of relax and play, So that was kind of how that went down. And then as far as just me playing parts, I would try and kind of just build a rhythm guitar part, when it comes to doing, basics, playing along with David and Rocco and Roger. We were building the rhythm tracks, the basics. And I would just try and build it and kind of try and think of just playing a little bit less early in the song and kind of building it up and saying a little bit more as we went through the song and easing back whenever I felt I needed to, that sort of thing. And then solos is a whole other thing altogether. But of
course,
that was kind of my approach anyway.
I love it, man. I mean, you put it all out there, and again, I'm looking at this clock right now, flashing. Can't believe that we're out of 5, going into 6. But I just wanted to ask you a question. We come up on the last segment. I want to find out if you brought any sidemen in on this, or is it all got to do with Tower of Power in the way of player-wise? Have you brought any guest stars in on the album? But don't say it now. Let's ask that when we come back on the last segment with this amazing interview, man. I mean, we're kind of juggling back and forth between Jerry's current CD. You've heard a couple of tunes off that, and we're going to talk about more in depth when we come on the next segment of where you can find that and where you can purchase that, and how you stay in contact with Jerry altogether. And there's so much more. I'm writing a bunch of stuff down here. I just don't want to forget anything at all. So when you guys have any further questions, go ahead and hit us back. We'll get it on the air to Mr. Cortez. And if we can't get it on the air during time, you'll go ahead and we'll answer it for you afterwards. So with that said, guys, thank you so much. I'm having a great time. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back on the last hour, last segment number 6 with my in-studio guest, amazing guitarist, vocalist, a great guy, Mr. Jerry Cortez from Tower of Power. Guys, don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after a short message break.
Hi, this is Tim Dolbear, host of Sound Experience here on Intertalk Radio. And Source Connect by Source Element is the essential tool that we use to link between my studio in Austin, Texas, and the WS radio station in San Diego. Now, with Source Connect, not only can we communicate in real time and with HD audio, but it's synced up and is of a high enough quality that I can use it for real-time ADR work, remote recording, and overdubbing, and it even allows me to remotely control a DAW. Source Connect by Source Element. Affordable, high-quality audio and video connection over the internet for all of your production needs.
You know what's all around you every waking moment of your life? Marketing. You're choking on it. I'm Scott Robertson, and when it comes to strategic PR, branding, and marketing, I've seen it all. And actually, I'm still seeing it because bad marketing never sleeps. Join me each week on May the Best Brand Win, right here on Intertalk Radio, and learn how to make the marketing for your brand unforgettable.
Make this your vinyl night. I'm John J.R. Robinson, and every week, music creation comes alive through stories, experiences, and sounds when vinyl records filled our hearts and minds. My friends and I share our tips and techniques used in creation of iconic tracks for recording artists such as Michael Jackson, Eric Clapton, Quincy Jones, and Steve Winwood, to name a few. Vinyl has emerged hot, and the soul of vinyl defines art and passion which burns deepest at night. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on intertalkradio.com.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
Hi, this is Michael McDonald, and you're listening to my good buddy Jackie Bertoni on Jackie's Groove.
Welcome to Jackie's journey with us through the rhythm of the music business with your host, Jackie Bertoni.
Hey, you guys, Mitigated Goo. That vocal is the guitarist. Also, his name is Jerry Cortez. You guys got to pick it up because the man's got some pipes. He can sing his ass off. So with that said, we're going to talk more about it, but I'm going to tell you, you're talking to Jackie Bertoni. This is Jackie's Groove, brought to you by Talk Radio Network. You're into all things music. Jerry, you blew me out of the water, man. Hey. I didn't know you had pipes like that. I'm always hearing you singing background with T.O.P., but never, as a frontman itself. Beautiful voice, man. Are you singing anything lead at all with Tower? Are they giving you any? Is Mimi giving you any freedom to sing at all?
Oh no, that's for the lead singer.
What a shame.
Mimi,
what a shame.
That's their territory. But no. But I love to do it on my own stuff for sure. And I've always loved singing background parts. I mean, I've always. And there's been only a few musical situations I've been in. They're pretty short-lived usually, where I wasn't singing, and it was just because it wasn't that kind of group kind of thing. And whenever I wasn't singing, it just felt kind of odd to me because I've just always been in musical situations where I'd step up to a mic and either sing lead or I'd sing background vocals, and it just feels like a really natural thing for me to do. It's something I really enjoy doing, and I really enjoyed singing backgrounds on the new Tower of Power record as well. I did a lot of background vocal parts with Emilio, and Sal's wife, Melanie, also came in and sang some vocals with us as well. Did that on half a dozen tracks or so. And so that was really, really big fun to do that, to sing with Mimi. There's a few tracks it's just Mimi and I singing vocals. And then he did a lot of background parts with Ray and Marcus as well. And then he had a couple women in Sacramento that also sang on the record. They sound fantastic. And
you remember the name? You want to give a shout out to them?
You know what? I don't remember the name because I was not in the studio with them. I did not sing with them. They sang together. In fact, they were the first background parts to ever go on the record. And that's when we were recording in Sacramento, and then we moved to all operations to Joe Vanelli's down in Agora Hills, and then it changed. Things changed when we got there. So, I don't know.
To show you how far back I go.
I do have them written down, but yeah, go ahead.
No, it's okay because it goes back all the way back. Because I remember some of the greatest background vocals of T.O.P. was a dear friend of mine by the name of Marilyn Scott, who I've worked with for years.
Yeah,
and also Pepper Watkins. Sure. Those were the girls' voices that you heard on most of Tower's famous songs, man. They had that great song. So yeah. I got to tell you guys, I am tickled pink, man, because I cannot wait. I mean, the last album I got from T.O.P. was the Great American Soul Book, and those were cover tunes, man. And first time Tower's ever covered songs. It's a great album, man, with Huey Lewis and Tom Jones and the like itself. And there's 1,000 things I want to ask, but you just mentioned the fact about Sacramento. I have been educated, locally. Being in Southern California and knowing all about the Bay Area, but I didn't realize there was so much talent that came out of Sacramento. Bobby G and Jay King and Brian Alexander Morgan, these great players from the group Club Nouveau and so on. But someone else that comes out of Sacramento, man, it's got a lot of talent. And yes, I'm being paid to say this. He's the CEO of our corporation by the name of Florentino Buenaventura, and he's the one, along with my team, with Paul Berzetsky, the COO, and my engineer, Cedric, who's on the board today, and his girl, my producer, Megan Wynn. I couldn't do it without you guys, man. I mean, it takes a lot, man. As they say, it takes a village, and, behind every great person on the radio is a great team behind that. So with that said, I want to take a couple seconds here and have him do some business with you, Jerry, if I may. So, Jerry, I want you to say hi to the CEO. You've talked to him before. And Florentino, please say hi to Jerry.
Hey, what's up, Jerry?
Right now.
How you doing, brother?
Hey, Florentino. Nice to say hi to you again.
Definitely. We got a chance to meet each other yesterday. I wanted to personally invite you on board. I really appreciate you joining us and appreciate Tower Power making so much amazing music over the years, inspiring me as a young man and all the folks that Jackie mentioned. In fact, me and Bobby used to talk about Tower all the time, and I've known Bobby G since I was in kindergarten. So we grew up listening to the guys, and as I mentioned, I think I told you yesterday that Roger Smith, I'd worked with Roger on a couple of projects in Sacramento, and I don't know if you knew this, Jackie, but Roger was the first MD for Club Nouveau. I don't know if I told you that. I forgot all about that.
I did not know, not at all.
Yeah, he was the first MD for Club Nouveau, going all the way back, and so it's kind of a cool. Bay Area and Sacramento are like like almost one and the same in many ways, even though we were all the way on the east side, or the east side. You guys were on the west side, but a lot of good friends from out your neck of the woods, man. So it's been a blessing watching this band and the brand of Tower Power flourish, and your stuff, man. It's amazing, brother. So congratulations, and you got that new project coming up. So we're all looking forward to it. And once you've been on EnterTalk Radio, you're part of the family, and you can never leave. You are pretty much part of the family for the rest of your as long as we're all around. So anyway,
there you go.
With that said,
well, thank you. Thank you, Florentino. Thanks for having me on, man. Thanks for inviting me in, man. It's been a pleasure, man.
Oh, and our great pleasure.
Glad to be a part of the family, for sure.
Well, you are definitely for sure. And with that said, we like to promote, man. And with this album as well as the other ones, we're gonna definitely put the word out. And with that said, let's get some URLs. Let's kind of restate. How can we find out more about Jerry?
Well, I have a fan page. There's a Jerry Cortez fan page on Facebook. Plus, I'm on Facebook myself, just my own personal page. And then music can be found at Evo Sound. That's the name of the record label. Evo Sound, EVO Sound, Evo Sound. And there's more information about that on my Facebook page. Plus, it's available at Amazon and iTunes and all that kind of stuff. So, and stay tuned for the next CD. Don't have a title yet, but I'll look for that sometime next year, hopefully.
Oh, that'll be awesome. That'll be awesome, brother.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to pass you back to Jackie because I know you guys still have so much more to talk about. Again, everyone listening, hopefully you feel as blessed as I have been listening in.
Thank you, Martina.
You're welcome, brother.
Perfect. Hey, Jerry, and Florentine, I'll talk to you offline. Hey, Jerry, I mentioned on the last segment about all the people that have endorsed me, and I'm so thankful for that. But let's go ahead and let's give a little bit of a shout out to the people that provide your backline, that use your name and your likeness. You want to give them a shout out and who you're playing with and so on?
I guess I could say Fender, Gibson, Maxon pedals. Is this what you're talking about? The Dorsey?
Exactly.
Yeah. And D'Addario has just been amazing, over the top amazing to me. Let's see, Traveler Guitar, wonderful guitar company that builds these all kinds of varieties of small travel guitar size instruments that fit in the overhead. They're like not much bigger than carrying around a tennis racket, and they're totally fully functional guitars. They're amazing. And I could kind of thank my wife. She's the one who kind of pulled me into a booth at NAMM and said, "Come on, I was going to buy you one of these. Let's go check them out." Next thing I know, I'm leaving with one. So they've been really great to me. Traveler Guitar. Who else? Another guitar company in Switzerland. They're called the company is called Relish Guitars. New up and coming, forward thinking guitar company. They make these amazing guitars. And they have two models. They have a Jane and a Mary. That's it.
Really?
But they're really, and electronically, I mean, you can actually open these guitars up because they have a aluminum frame with like cherry wood or ash or whatever kind of wood sandwiched between the two, top and the back, and the sides is all aluminum. And so it's like this hollowed out guitar, and they have it's really ingenious. You could pull off the back of this guitar real easily, a portion of it, and see the insides of it. It's like Swiss clock wiring in there. It's like beautiful. And they really amazingly built and amazing sounding guitars. And that's called Relish. And like I said, they're in Zurich. So
we have to be thankful, man. We have to be thankful for people who believe in us and trust in us. Because I remember growing up in this industry, busting my ass to get the best equipment. And then all of a sudden you become a name in the industry and all the equipment is given to you. And I tell the young guys out there, the days of endorsements of yesterday are not there anymore. Don't go looking for a free rig. It doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah.
The fact is you got to promote, man. You got to let them know 24/7 exactly what you're doing. I mean, LP, I'm a studio guy now, but LP treats me like I'm on a major tour. So I'm loyal to that, man. And then also, too, I want you to go on to towerofpower.com and click on down to players and go on down to Jerry Cortez and click on that. And if you're interested in what he's playing, man, he's got a lot of the stuff listed there. You can also search it out. You can also email him out, too, also, if you're curious to find out exactly what this man is playing that you didn't hear right now on the air. And, Jerry, I want to ask you a question also, too. I'm curious because we're about the same age and such, and things have changed over the term. Good music never changes. But I want to ask you, when you're walking on a stage with 9 other players on stage, Tower of Power being a band of 10, when you're on stage itself, do you have a choice? Do you prefer, depending on the size of the venue, are you in-ear monitors or do you still love the ambient wedge on stage? What's your choice?
Well, I would definitely go with the I go with the wedge. And I would probably go with in-ear monitors.
Okay.
Because I like the idea. I definitely love the concept. But we, unfortunately, we don't have our own monitor rig that we carry with us. So it's kind of like for everywhere we play. So if we could, if it was something that I could dial in on a regular basis, I would definitely go ear to ear. But now I'm just kind of old school. I use a wedge, and it still works. It still works fine. Most of us in the band use wedges,
because playing with that power of and no pun intended, of those horns. I mean, I guess the question I want to ask you, because I know you're set up on the stage itself. I know every once in a while, Roger and you are on opposite sides of the stage, or maybe even together. And you're on a small riser yourself, depending on the gig. But my question to you is, as a musician, what doesn't Jerry Cortez want to hear in his mix?
Well, I usually don't need much in the way of horns because I'm standing usually a lot of the times, like it used to be anyway, especially when Roger was next to me, I was directly behind Emilio. And so he uses a wedge, but Tom doesn't. So I was hearing a lot of Emilio's horn mix. And then Rocco also likes a lot of horns. Sometimes I'll hear bleed from his. So typically I don't need much in the way of horns because I'm hearing it bleed through other monitors just fine. And plus I'm hearing them on stage. So I typically have,
how about vocals?
As close as I am to, I always have vocals. I have mainly Emilio, Roger, and myself in my vocal mix, and then the lead vocal rides over the top of that. I like more lead vocal on the top of that. I actually like a lot of lead vocal. So the lead vocal and my monitor's cranked, and kick and snare is pretty much it. And then I'll have, now that Roger's on the other side of the stage from me, I have him in my monitors too, so I could hear him.
Right.
So. Yeah.
Let me ask you a question, brother, and I got to ask this because I feel like I've known you I've known you for 7 years since you've been in the band. But I want to ask you a question, and it's a question I ask everybody that I record with, and I love the dichotomy and the 50-50 split on the answer. But let me ask you this question: if Jerry Cortez wasn't playing guitar or singing, or has anything to do with the music business period, what would you be doing today?
Oh boy, if I'd be in jail. I don't know.
Okay. Wait a minute. I'm sorry. I didn't expect that to come out of your mouth at all, man. Shame on you. Shame on you.
No.
Let me ask that question again. What would Jerry be doing if he wasn't playing?
I just kind of feel like since I was such a young kid, since I figured out when I was such a young kid that I wanted to play music, I think that it just kept me out of trouble, And I found out when, times when I was a young kid, I started maybe to hang out with some kind of undesirables. And then until I kind of cleared my head, like, well, I can't be hanging out with this dude. This kid's dangerous, man. I got to go. I might have run off with guys, dangerous kids. I don't know. That's why I said that. But I'm kidding. I think when I was a little kid, I wanted to be an airline pilot. So I don't know, maybe an airline pilot.
And I want to find out one thing, because the last 2 minutes, brother, and I want your opinion on this. Again, being in close to the same age itself, does Jerry Cortez, and I hate to use the third party here, but does Jerry Cortez understand the music business where it sits today?
Oh boy, once I think I do, I think I'm completely clueless. Not that long ago, I did a clinic about building a successful career in the music business, and it was to a bunch of middle school and high school kids, and I could see that most were kind of listening along intently, but there were a lot of people that were like, "Oh God, it's just over with." We wanted to hear you tell us how we're going to make it big on YouTube. That's what we want to hear. We don't want to hear how you struggled or had to pay your dues. We don't want to pay any dues. We just want to be YouTube sensations now. So I mean, that's kind of where it is now too, in a lot of ways.
It's strange.
Yeah,
it's a strange situation, and I don't want to interrupt you, brother, because we're running out of time, man. And I hate this because I told you can't take a 40-year career and put it in 2 hours. It just doesn't happen. And I kind of tell you, I'm internally grateful. As Florentino said, you've been jumped in, and there's no getting out of the situation. We appreciate that. And of course, I owe everything, and I'll say it again to Emilio Castillo. You guys do yourselves a favor. Go on to towerpower.com. Click on tour, please. Hunt these boys down. It's the most fun you're going to have with your clothes on. And enjoy Mr. Jerry Cortez. He brings a vibe to the band that is very, very special, man. I'm one of my favorite players. I will tell you that right up front. Jerry, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for the accepting the invitation. And again, too, we're here for you, brother. And if there's anything we can do to help promote the new album when it comes up, reach out, and we will do another show together to get that promoted out to the world. So with that said, guys, I want to say goodbye to Jerry Cortez. Jerry, thank you so much, brother, and for joining us. This is Jackie Bertoni, brought to you by Intertalk Radio Network, into all things music. Jackie's Groove, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Check us out. Jerry, as I always say to everybody else, peace through music, brother. I love you, and we will talk to you soon.
This is Jackie Bertoni from Jackie's Groove. Come join me weekly on my journey through the music business as I take you behind the velvet rope, interviewing industry notables such as Al Di Meola, Michael McDonald, and Al Jarreau, to name but a few. Listen to their stories on being in the studios recording #1 hits and onto the stages throughout the globe. Allow me to be your music historian. You can hear me live every Monday at 2 p.m. and every Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time, or 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com. Ready to get your groove on?
Hi, this is Tim Dolbear from Eclectica Studios. I'm a full-time mixing and recording engineer. I work with Grammy winners, labels, and indie artists, using state-of-the-art digital mixing and restoration tools and the very best in analog gear. Really, though, it's my ability to bring tracks to life and fulfill your vision for your music. This has made me sought after by producers and artists worldwide. So spend your time working on music and not chasing a mix down a rabbit hole. Go to timdolbear.com and check out our free one-song mix offer.
You know what's all around you every waking moment of your life? Marketing. You're choking on it. I'm Scott Robertson, and when it comes to strategic PR, branding, and marketing, I've seen it all. And actually, I'm still seeing it because bad marketing never sleeps. Join me each week on May the Best Brand Win, right here on Intertalk Radio, and learn how to make the marketing for your brand unforgettable.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.